Steve.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Shout out Avery for the tweet. Your tweet went bang. 323,000 views. Holy crap. I don't think the answer is more horsepower because more horsepower is expensive. Huh? Phelps said if you ask a driver what's going to solve it. Actually, no. Wait a minute. No. Mr. Yates literally gave an interview a few months ago saying that more horsepower would not do anything. If anything, it would be less expensive because the current engines have restrictor plates on them. If you are like, no, Rabin, they don't. No, they have taper spacers, which is a restrictor plate. A tapered spacer and a restrictor plate are the same thing. They're just different sizes, okay? You put it on the engine to limit the horsepower. So, yes, it's not more expensive. It's not. I don't know where that comes from. I'm not really understanding if he means more expensive in a different avenue. Is it more expensive because of other reasons that he's not talking about? But definitely for the race teams in terms of actually getting more horsepower and what that would do for the engines themselves and the cost of the teams, no, that's not more expensive. It's not. You literally just take off the tapered spacer. It is one piece on that thing. You take it off and boom, you're good to go. I know it's maybe not as simple as that, but when Mr. Yates comes out and says like, hey, this is not more expensive, then I don't know. In my opinion, I'm going to believe the guy that makes the engines. It's just my opinion. If you ask a driver what's going to solve it, they're always going to say, give me more horsepower. It's a thing. I'm not a driver, but I've listened to enough drivers and that's their solution. So the question is that really what it is? I don't know. I think there's some gearing things that we're looking at as well and some shifting things. I mean, it's basically the same thing. Gearing things, shifting things, it's the same thing. Same thing, Steve. I didn't say how's it going, guys, by the way. How's it going, guys? I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon members, as always, for your support, guys. The support means a lot. We'll be talking about some more real-life stuff, real-life NASCAR videos. I'm going to be making more of them over the course of the next month because I really want to. So, you will get to hear my opinions a lot more than usual. We're gonna go back to a few years ago, Milad Radman. The few years ago where I'm giving my opinion a lot more. You're gonna get that. Not because I'm angry or anything. That's not that. I'm actually very pleased with the way NASCAR is going. But this tweet, by Avery, it's not really a tweet. We're gonna read the article where it came from and everything Steve Phelps talked about. It got me on my nerves a little bit. But it also made me pretty pleased as well, and I'm going to explain that as we move on. But this is the one quote that we got to talk about a little bit more in detail because this is the answer that a lot of fans want, that a lot of drivers want, but apparently NASCAR don't want to go down this road yet for whatever reason that might be. I still believe it's not on track reasons. It has to do with something off the track involving their OEMs as well. I'm pretty sure that NASCAR is at the mercy of Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. Let's be honest. If one of them leave, it's genuinely like a crisis situation for NASCAR. So I have a very strong belief that actually the OEMs would want their stock cars to be as close to road cars as possible, and maybe that is one of the reasons why horsepower is just not being put back in, because the OEMs just don't want it. There are also other reasons that I want to just think about that might be the reason as to why they're not doing it, because it seems this answer by Steve is a little bit hypocritical in a way, because he says if you ask a driver what's going to solve it, they're always going to say give me more horsepower, and then he admits that he's not a driver, but he's listened to enough drivers and that's their solution. We're not only talking about modern day drivers, we're talking about drivers who have retired as well. I unfortunately have to throw in Kevin Harvick into that now. I feel old saying that, but Kevin Harvick, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jamie McMurray, all these guys, I feel really old saying those three names and knowing that two of them have been retired for a while now. But they will all say give me horsepower, give me more horsepower. The younger drivers entering the sport will also say give me more horsepower, and the drivers that are kind of in their prime right now will also say give me more horsepower. We're not all wrong, like fans and drivers that always say give me more horsepower. If everyone is saying it in a collective way, that means there has to be some sort of leg on it that we actually know what we're talking about. But this is the one thing that's annoying me a little bit more, as he says, so the question is it really what it is? I don't know. Well, here's my thing. We use all-star races, exhibition races, We test out different packages in the same year. We'll throw in stages at a road course for the first part of the season, and then the last road course race of the season, we will not have stages. I think I mixed that up, but you know what I mean. Cautions during stages. My point is that NASCAR kind of goes, on their own beat. They will do and say and kind of just do random things as they feel fit because they think it's what's right. So here's my question to Mr. Phelps and to NASCAR is that why not just try it for literally one race? Pick any track you want on the schedule, take the tapered spacer off, and let's actually do it at a track where if you take that off, you're not going excessive speeds. Because we know if you took that off at, for example, Michigan, the speeds right now with the amount of downforce that the car has, it would be a little bit scary to say the least how fast those cars go. So don't do it at Michigan. But let's go to Richmond, right? What is the harm in going to Richmond and just throwing on more horsepower there? The cars already lose a lot of grip. Richmond has already been known as a track that doesn't really give the best races. But let's just throw horsepower on it and just see what happens at Richmond. Go to Martinsville. Again, if you give a driver more horsepower at Martinsville, it's not going to put them in danger. It's not going to put really anybody in danger. You will be going the same speeds. Nothing will be a safety hazard like it would be at a Michigan, for example. So just see how it goes. You have 2 Martinsville races in the year. At the first Martinsville race, take off the tapered spacer, let the engines be their natural horsepower, which I think the natural horsepower of the engine is still around 900 horsepower. So just see what happens. And while you go with those gearing things that you're looking at and the shifting things that you're looking at, which we know, I think the fans know as well and the drivers know, you don't want to be shifting at a lot of oval tracks. You can work on that as well, but don't ignore the drivers when they say, give me more horsepower. Just test it. Just test it. Well, I don't understand where this has become such an issue where we have been saying give them more horsepower for years, and for years they were going the opposite way, but with the next gen car they kind of gave a little bit back. I think the cars are like 625 or 650 horsepower right now. What is wrong with that? Can you guys say, am I wrong? Is something wrong with that premise that if you were to give drivers more horsepower for a single race just to test it, what's wrong with that? I think the drivers would be happy. You put a poll out right now with all the drivers and even the teams. Put the teams, the crew chiefs, and everyone, and just say, hey, if we give you 5 months in advance and say, this race, we are going to run 900 horsepower. You need to take the taper spacer off, just run the engine as is, no other changes at this racetrack. Be prepared for it, okay? Let's do it. I mean, or you could do it at, I don't know if North Wilkesboro is the best place to do it, but again, if you just want to see what it's like, you can do it in the All-Star race, which is not a points-paying race. You race for $1 million, throw the horsepower on there. What's the problem? Is there a problem? I don't think there's a problem. I mean, wasn't the next-gen car literally tested during an All-Star race before? I mean, is it a problem? I don't really think it's a problem. However, this is my thing though. This is why I feel kind of bad for Steve Phelps, guys, because I want to talk about this article from NBC Sports by Dustin Long, on November 27th, right? So I think it's 2 days old. Steve Phelps discusses the future media rights package and things. When you read this, so the majority of people that saw that tweet, right? They only saw that tweet. They only saw that screenshot. And this is what I'm trying to get at, is that Steve Phelps is a very smart man. Like, he's really, really intelligent. And the way he's been, leading NASCAR in certain directions, I have been really happy with, which is why I've been quiet. I just bit my tongue. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Okay, well, I'm going to feel that for the rest of the day. But, ow, Jesus. Okay, anyways, the way Phelps has been leading NASCAR has been really, really impressive, and a lot of the decisions he has made in terms of the schedule and taking risks for the Chicago street course have been really, really good. But there's always these 1 or 2 quotes that he says, just like everything. If we are happy, we're not going to make a fuss. So there's not going to be outrage or even discussion on something that he says that we agree with, right? So there won't really be discussion on that. But as soon as we talk about horsepower and his opinion doesn't match our opinion and the driver's opinion, then we start making a fuss. Because again, anything that's negative, you speak out on. Anything that's positive, you kind of just move on. That's like our human nature, is that when it's positive and we're happy, we get comfortable and we kind of move on. When it's negative and it bothers us, we pipe up. All right, so like that's when we start making our voices heard and we start talking. In this article, guys, honestly, everything he says, I genuinely agree with. Everything he says. The only thing is literally just horsepower. And I want to talk about this because I want to give Steve Phelps his credit and show you guys this as well. It was a 45-minute webinar, and let's talk about like the media rights, right? The media rights actually might get announced today on Wednesday after I upload this. It's 10 a.m. as I'm recording this. I'm going to be in Miami later, so I'm not going to be able to see the announcement or make a video on it if it does happen today. But the media rights are about to be announced, and we kind of know what it is. It's going to be Fox and NBC as is, 14 races for Fox, 14 races for NBC. But the middle part will be TNT and Amazon, or it's going to be one or the other. But it's going to be one of them, TNT or Amazon, most likely a split deal with the two of them. And Amazon races will be on Amazon Prime. Now, you might be thinking, no, please don't put it on Amazon Prime because I'd have to get Amazon Prime in order to watch it, blah, 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 right? You guys have to understand that media rights is what keeps every sport, like, as powerful as it is. Media rights is what keeps everything running. I'd love to use like just a football analogy, for example. So the Premier League, right? The Premier League media rights. The reason why the Premier League in England is the best league in the world, the richest league in the world, is because of media rights. It's because of what the TV companies in America and in England pay the Premier League in order to show. They make billions off of it. That all goes to the teams. NASCAR is the same exact way. The media rights that go to NASCAR go to the teams. The survival and the profitability and the liquidity and the richness, whatever you want to call it, of NASCAR and their teams all goes based off the media rights, and everyone gets a slice of that pie, and you go through collective bargaining agreements in terms of who gets what slice of that pie. NASCAR tracks, race teams, purse sizes, all that stuff. But it all comes from media rights. So the media rights for the 2025 season, which is literally not that far away, that is 15 months away at the moment, or 14 months away from the 2025 season, is a huge deal. And going to Amazon Prime is going to be a massive deal because of the amount of money that Amazon will be willing to put for not even a third of the season, just for the summer races. And you create a marketing tactic around that for the summer races. It's an incredibly smart thing to do by NASCAR, and Steve Phelps knows this. But he also knows that the partnership and the long-lasting business relationship between NBC and Fox is incredibly important as well, which is why NBC and Fox are going to stay. NBC the last half of the season and Fox in the first half of the season. But this is very important. We're going to have an additional partner, and we may have two additional partners, and it will most likely be two, guys. It's going to be TNT, and it's going to be Amazon. Now, they might even work together, but I don't think that's not how it's going to work. Amazon Prime races will be on Amazon Prime. I do think we will have cup races in 2025 that will not be on cable, and you will have to get Amazon Prime in order to watch those races. However, I think that is a good thing. That is kind of what we're trying to figure out the last few weeks, but we know what it's going to look like. We're going to have more partners. Again, that's a very good thing. And he noted that the value of having events on broadcast TV, cable TV, and streaming, having it on all three, and it is incredibly smart. We do know that broadcast television is going to be around for the foreseeable future at 125 million homes. That's not going to change. Again, that's why the majority of races are on cable. But what we do know is that the cable universe has declined, and that's true. That's true. Even my family that have had cable for so many years, me and my sister finally convinced them to go to YouTube TV, which is streaming. That's not cable. Now, obviously, YouTube TV does provide your cable channels, but we are going into the streaming era more and more and more. So you want to be on that. The NFL is on that with their Thursday night prime games. The Premier League is on that as well, especially in America, because most games in America are on Peacock, which is again streaming, and in England they are giving a lot of games to guess who? Amazon. Amazon are actually hosting a lot of Premier League games as well. You want to get on this train because streaming will be the future. And we always say that, don't think about the future now. We don't want to pay this and this and this. It's not just about you and what you pay for. It's for the health of your sport. So again, the reason why the Premier League is so rich is because of those media rights. The reason why NASCAR can become in a better state for us and for the teams and for the drivers and for the fans and everyone is if you support what NASCAR is trying to do with their media rights. And going to Amazon will help that. And this is the big thing here, is that Phelps talked to him, and this is why Steve Phelps being in charge, guys, is I am really happy with, because he does get it. He gets it. It's just the horsepower thing that he seems hesitant on in terms of going in that direction. But he talks with the teams, and the increase in media rights will be important for teams. It's going to be important for everyone. This is the most important thing when it comes to NASCAR, is so the NASCAR can be profitable and they can make money. And the charter system, while a lot of people don't like the charter system because it doesn't allow new teams to come in, it does allow the teams to not go down, essentially, because they have value, right? So race teams want three things. They want to be competitive on the racetrack, which right now is a check, and that is true. If you look at the next gen car, a lot of the lesser teams can now compete with the bigger teams. The one issue that has caused is a little bit of a racing product efficiency, because if the dirty air and stuff like that is really bad and the cars don't have a lot of difference in them, then everyone's going to stay where they are. And that's kind of what you're seeing, especially at short tracks, where all the cars are so equal, but then because you don't have horsepower, because all the teams are within 0.2 of each other, they don't go anywhere. So the racing seems boring because all the teams are very close. That can be fixed with a better race car. But having everyone be competitive is important, because you don't want a situation that F1 has been dealing with forever, which is one team dominates. You don't want that. You want parity. And NASCAR with the next gen car have definitely achieved that. And then the next step for them would be understanding that you don't need a one race chase, because you already have the parity. You don't need to be scared of one team winning 15 races, because it's never going to happen again in this sport because of how hard it is now to win, since there's so many teams that are able to win, right? So that's NASCAR's next step. They want to increase their enterprise value of the charters. That has also been a check, and this is why the charter system is there, guys. Again, I'm not going to talk about the charters too much. A lot of you guys don't like it, but I understand why it's there. You want your owners to have that feeling of value, that if something happens, like they are able to sell to someone that does want to get in. It is hard and basically impossible for a lesser team to get in because of this, but it does keep kind of like the health of the sport pretty high as well, because you have value in there. So it's kind of like two different things, right? They also want to have a path to profitability, and that's not a check right now, and we know that. You don't own a NASCAR team to make money. You never make money. Joe Gibbs loses money, Hendrick loses money. Those are the two biggest teams, right? They're losing money, all right? Michael Jordan comes into NASCAR. He ain't coming into NASCAR to make money. He comes into NASCAR because he has loved NASCAR his entire life, and he just wants to win. He knows he's going to lose money running 2311 racing, but it doesn't matter. He just wants to win. So what you want here, though, is this is not like if you're going to be losing money always, right? And he talks about this, I think, a little bit later. And let's see where that is. It's right here. So second, and not small, honestly, is some type of cost containment. So whether that's a form of a cap, or whether that's a form of part of pieces that make up the next gen car, trying to limit those pieces. I don't know where we're going now, net out on that. I'm not suggesting that our race teams can cut their way to success. I'm not suggesting that because I've been accused of that in the past. There needs to be a mixture of those things, but both are important. I am all on board for cost caps. We've even seen it in Formula 1 now, that in Formula 1 there is cost caps. However, in Formula 1, the cost cap is still stupidly high, and like, the way the money's divided, like, it doesn't really work. Okay, you want to be able to have a force of cost containment. You want the race teams to be profitable. This is for the health of the sport, guys. We can't just go. We can't just. What's the best way I'm trying to say this? We can't just focus on the on-track product. If we put more horsepower in the car, and that's the only thing that NASCAR needs, right? And everything will be kumbaya and will be great. That's not going to work, right? That's not going to work. You need to focus on all the levels. Now, while there are things like in the playoff format that I want to change, and there are things like putting horsepower in the car that I would want to change, you do need to focus on these things as well, because you can't have your race teams constantly losing money over and over and over and over, which is why this media rights deal is extremely important, so the race teams can at least get to even, and then maybe even make a profit. That's why this media deal is so important. So going back to the media deal, if you need them to make even or go profit, that is where Amazon comes in. You need to hop on that streaming revenue, guys. You need to hop on it because Amazon will overpay to get into the market. They will do that initially, and you want to be able to get involved in that as well. So all these things that he's saying, my point here, guys, all these things that he's saying, I agree with every single thing Mr. Phelps says. Every single thing. Because he's incredibly smart. But all this stuff, guys, this stuff was never shown on Twitter. This stuff was never shown. All this that we all agree with was never shown on Twitter. We only see the horsepower comment, which is, let's see where I can find it, right here. I don't think the answer is more horsepower. This is what was shown. This one paragraph is what was shown out of all of this, where we agree. Like, he even talks about the cup schedule. With more money in the sport, that won't mean more additional cup races. The schedule features 38 races, 36 points races, 2 exhibition races, and for the foreseeable future, we're gonna have 38. The season's long enough, and we don't see that expanding. That's good. And he also talks about another thing. What have I been saying this whole time, guys, is that I prefer one race at every track, but where I will bulge on that, or like cave on that, is the big tracks. Daytona, you gotta have 2 races it's Daytona, right? You gotta have 2 races at Daytona. You gotta have 2 races at Talladega. I feel like you have to have 2 races at Bristol, and you have to have the Brickyard 400, and because Charlotte's the home of NASCAR, I think you need 2 races at Charlotte. So, like, there are tracks out there that I believe need 2 races, but even Mr. Phelps was talking about, he said the emphasis remains on tracks to sell out, and noting that if a track with 2 races do not sell out, the sport will show that it will move one of those events elsewhere. And that's very important because there are racetracks out there that will sell out that don't currently have a race date. I still want NASCAR to go to Canada. I still want NASCAR to also do 1 race internationally. I still want NASCAR to even show some other tracks, some more love. Like, why did we leave Chicagoland? Well, it's okay. If we leave Chicagoland, I still want to be in Chicago. All right, NASCAR fixed that mistake. You left Chicagoland, but you came back with the Chicago Street Course. So he even wants to be on a more 1 race per track emphasis, but he knows he can't do that because there are certain tracks that need those 2 races. But again, he's on the right track. Mr. Phelps gets the direction of NASCAR. He does. But it's just this one thing here that everyone got mad about. And then they get mad about Mr. Phelps, and they say that he doesn't understand what he's doing and that he can't run NASCAR. But everything else here is exactly what I would want the leader of NASCAR to be doing, which is why I've been quiet, because I've been happy with the way the sport is going. There's just a few minor things, like the playoff format, and right now getting the car to race better, and even more so, marketing your superstars, that I think NASCAR should be able to do more of. And even the marketing of superstars is kind of a team problem, because the teams don't want their drivers to be outspoken because of sponsorships. So again, that's kind of another thing that's kind of not in NASCAR's hands, that's more in the team's hands. So again, I just think that, and that's the end of the article basically, when he's talking about that. One thing that Phelps is certain of its continued change is the Cup schedule. Next year's we'll see Cup cars race the first time at Iowa. Next year the Bristol Spring Race will be back on concrete. And again, but this race is not going to sell out. Even the Bristol Night Race doesn't really sell out anymore. It is what it is. One thing I will say, that schedule variation is going to continue. Are we going to continue to race in Atlanta and Richmond and Charlotte and other places that are fixtures on our schedule? We are. But they want to look for ways to reach more fans. Again, a race in New York, I think that's a market that they should also try to get in as well. You see F1's trying to get into New York, but they kind of went with Las Vegas instead. So yeah, guys, this video is more of just what I think the state of NASCAR is in right now, talking about that horsepower thing, talking about the schedule, talking about everything here, the media rights. That we'll make another video on the media rights once it's announced. It might even be announced as I'm uploading this. But NASCAR is in good shape, guys. NASCAR is in really good shape, and I don't think you need to get angry with Mr. Phelps off this one comment. But what you do need to do is you definitely do need to kind of get at him. You need to put pressure on, be like, hey, Mr. Phelps, we agree with everything that you say. We like the way this is going, the direction that it's going. But when it comes to horsepower, you're just dead wrong. Just try it. Literally just try it. If he doesn't want to try it, then there's other reasons that they're not saying. So if NASCAR does not want to give more horsepower, guys, there are other reasons that they just will not say what it is. Because it's definitely not that it's more expensive. We have the guys making the engines that literally say it's not more expensive, and I'm going to believe them. So it's not that. That is not the reason. So there has to be some other reasons why NASCAR is not doing it, and you gotta push on that to say, like, dude, just try it, man. For a race or two, just try it. See what it does for the drivers. Let them give their feedback and see how it goes. I'm gonna end the video there, guys. We'll be making more real life videos. I'm gonna make a few videos over the next 2 weeks that are going to explain what we're gonna be doing on the channel, because I'm gonna change the content a little bit on the channel. So take care of yourselves, guys. Hopefully you enjoy your day. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you're not already. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys tomorrow, probably for the media rights video, because I think that will probably be announced today. So take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.